So here I am at the Return of the Living Dead cemetery, and I think it was yesterday. Yeah, yesterday morning. I had to use the bathroom, and there's a J John. There's a J John out here in the cemetery, in the middle of the cemetery, right at where the mausoleum is, in the middle of the cemetery. Now, I went in there and used the bathroom, but I remember when I first looked at that J John, I said, there's no way in hell that I'm gonna go and use the bathroom in the middle of a cemetery by myself with the gate locked, and I'm the only person surrounded by thousands of bodies, and there's no way I'm gonna. But guess what? I did. I used the bathroom by myself, and it was no big deal. I mean, it was just me and surrounded by a bunch of dead bodies. I mean, a bunch of corpses or whatever. And I gotta admit, it was pretty weird. I mean, it's weird because I've never used the bathroom in a J John in the middle of a cemetery. I never used the bathroom before. Never. In a cemetery like that. Like I said, I mean, I've heard voices in the cemetery, and when you hear voices in the cemetery, your common sense tells you that you shouldn't be in a cemetery, especially at night by yourself. And but this is my job, so I gotta do what I gotta do. But I'm telling you, man, it takes a certain kind of person to work this cemetery. Okay? It does take a certain caliber of person that has courage, or if you don't have courage, well, at least you're not afraid, of what can happen. And see, that's the mausoleum right there. That's the mausoleum. Because, I mean, anything can happen, Anything can happen. Like, what if somebody says something, What if somebody speaks and you're the only one in the cemetery? And that's happened to me where somebody says something, and you're the only person in the cemetery, but all of a sudden somebody else is right there with you. I mean, what do you do? Do you go crazy? Do you freak out? No, honestly, the truth is that the weird thing that happens is that you're your own worst enemy at that point. Whether you panic or whether you don't is at your discretion. But that's not going to stop the dead from speaking to you if they want to speak to you. And the dead are unpredictable. You could say, hey, talk to me, come out and scare me. You could say that all you want, and they're not going to do anything. It's at that moment of vulnerability where they know that your guard is down for like a split second, then they're going to make their move. They're going to walk in front of a tree. You're going to see them slumped over their own tombstone, or you're going to see something, you're going to hear a voice, and that's when you're justified in freaking out. I mean, you're allowed to freak out a little bit, but like with me, I allow myself a little bit of wiggle room to freak out, okay? But I will not totally flip out and freak out, because I'm a scientific person, and as scientific as I am, I'm also not stupid, I mean, it's possible there could be just some crazy person that somehow got in here. That's possible. So you want to make sure that the person that is standing next to one of these graves is really a real person and not a ghost, you know? And you got to make sure which is which, you know, because it's like, it's kind of tough. It's tough. I got to admit. I've seen people in suits just standing around in the cemetery, and I'm like, okay, why are you in the cemetery? You know what I'm saying? And the fact is that they're pretty much lingering over their own tombstones and hanging out. They're already dead, but the suits they're in are the suits they were buried in. And you know, what do you say to something like that? How do you describe something like that? You can't really talk to anyone about it. No one's really going to understand, except for those who have experienced something similar in their life. That is the only way, okay, that they will understand what you're going through, what you've been through, what you've experienced. That's the only way, you know? You know, every time I come into this cemetery, I can't help but wonder. If these, you know, demons or whatever, like when they're gonna try to make their move. Because I'm a very spiritual person, you know, I'm a very spiritual person. I have pretty strong defenses. However, I'm not stupid, but, you know, this is the return of the Living Dead Cemetery. Some beautiful statues. This part of the grave is beautiful, I have to admit. Or this part of the cemetery. Holy shoot. That statue always freaks me out. Right there. Gosh, man, sometimes, man, I'm already getting creeped out right here in this area. There's definitely some individuals that are not at rest right here. Okay, so now I'm gonna cross over here. I gotta make sure there's no one hanging around in here. Yeah, like I said, I mean, a lot of the guys I work with, they say there's no way in hell that they would ever come get off the car and walk around. There's no way in hell. They're just too scared. They're too frightened. Because of the woman in the white dress that chased him out. She chased him out of the cemetery. Yeah. See, it's pitch black out here. It is pitch black. There's my car way over there. It is, look at this. It's pitch black. It's totally, this kind of reminds me of like the dream world. Where there's just lights everywhere but nobody's around, you know. It's kind of hard to describe, but in the dream world, you know, I'm sure you have dreams, some of you. Well, when you have dreams, it's like, this is the kind of like, it's a surreal reality where things are kind of dark Yes, there's lights, but there ain't no one around. It's a weird reality in the dream world. Is you can have powers, special powers and all that. But right now, it's like I'm surrounded by people. It's just weird being surrounded by thousands, hundreds of people that have been passed. They've been dead for a long time, and they're never gonna rise again. I mean, at least they're not gonna rise physically, literally. And if they do, you'll see me speeding out of this cemetery at probably 83 miles an hour. That's if that really happened. But no, physically, these bodies cannot physically do anything because they're 6 feet underground. So, but you see, here's the rube. They could move around. They could be seen by the physical eye. That's the thing. And they could make themselves known to you physically, verbally, and physically. Like they could speak to you, they could show themselves to you, but they're nothing but an apparition. But some of them, they have that power to be able to hit you, scratch you, or push you. Some of them do have that power. But a lot of them they're in a good place, and so they're not really hanging around their crypts, so to speak. They're not really hanging around their tombs. A lot of them are just in a better place. And then some of them, if they have unfinished business, if they weren't ready to move on when they died, then no matter what the priest said when they were going in the hole, they're still going to come out, and they're going to want to experience and try to fix what was broken in their life. And that's what I firmly believe. I don't think that a priest can totally, consecrate a death 100%, especially somebody who is not ready to move on. That's my firm belief. I mean, they could say a prayer and send them off to heaven, but the fact is if they're not ready to move on, they're not going to move on. It's that simple. And I've experienced people still hanging around their graves, in suits. They're dressed in suits and they're hanging around, and there'll be more than one person talking to each other. And these are those who are just they're not ready to move on, and they still have business that they're trying to do here. But hope you guys enjoyed that. Until next time.